Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad. My name is Austin.
And my name is Patrick.
And guys, welcome back to our show.
Yeah, we got AVT and PAT. They talking about young Americans overseas. We got McKennie, Pulisic, Reyna, and Des. Got that red, white, and blue. USA on the crest from England, Germany, from Belgium to Spain. Racking up all the medals on the trophy train. Got one thing on their mind. We're scaling some luck. One day we can say we will win the World Cup.
Well, guys, it is great to be back. I know we've been away a little bit, Pat, but hey, it was great to watch the end of the World Cup. See Leo Messi win his finally his World Cup trophy, cementing his legacy. Definitely the GOAT. I mean, there's no comparison, right? Ronaldo had a little bit of time there where he made us think, right, with Champions League and the Euro, but at the end of the day, hey, Leo Messi did it. Hard to compete with his repertoire, but after that happened, right, we had a lot that went on within the USMNT circle that we'll get to talk today. I feel like that popular Donald Glover meme where he just walks into the room of fire. That's kind of what it feels like today.
Right.
Coming to film with you guys.
Austin, you thought it was, and guys, great to be back with you all. But you thought, okay, fairly successful, right? You saw some momentum, some positive things. Obviously disappointing against the Netherlands for us, but a great World Cup, like you said, Austin. The GOAT getting that final trophy. And then you thought, okay, we're heading into a calmer new year, new cycle, get some transfer rumors there for January, have our guys come back into form, weekly episodes. But no, we get hit with keeping up with the Kardashians or Berhalters and the Reyna family.
Yeah, just insane. And we're going to talk about that today. But yeah, it was great to kind of take a break from things, right, Pat? We were able to get to see each other in person, spend some time with our family. We both have a lot going on right now. So yeah, it was good to kind of, take a little bit of a break. And yeah, we're excited to be back today to talk through everything.
Exactly. We're refreshed, recharged for you all, and then just take some time again after that World Cup and yeah, ready to get back and cover our boys, right? And see who else comes through the pipeline. And there's a lot to look forward to, right? Potentially Copa America, the Olympics, all the other tournaments, CONCACAF, right, related. We have a lot to prepare for, even without qualifying.
Yeah, it feels weird, right? We just talked about this a little bit earlier that the World Cup's finally over, right? And now we're preparing for that next cycle. So yeah, definitely a lot to look forward to. But I think, Pat, let's kick it off with the biggest story of the hour, of the week, of the year so far, and that's this whole drama between the Reynas and the Berhalters. Why don't you kick it off for us? Kind of give us a quick timeline, just so we're kind of caught up and
where do we begin
on the same page.
Where do we begin? I mean,
I don't know.
It's been a crazy whirlwind, a few weeks here, and we just wanted to take some time for kind of the entire story to finish. Now, you heard some rumors, some things getting out, investigations, right? So now we kind of have the whole picture, or at least a lot of the picture.
I think, the whole picture.
We think, right? I guess we never really truly know everything. But let's start at the beginning, right? Back to the World Cup where Gio had that limited role, Austin. Obviously, the Reyna family behind the scenes weren't very happy about that. And you can see Reyna, the player himself, reflecting that in the lack of celebrations. When Pulisic, right, met the team after coming back from the hospital in the Iran game. You felt like something was off, and Reyna wasn't getting the playing time. Then we learned Berhalter right away said, terrible mistake in my point, that he would have a limited role going in. Don't know why you would say that to anyone.
Yeah.
With all that, right, Reyna was kind of bringing, I guess, the vibe of the locker room down in a way, and not putting full effort in training. So eventually, Berhalter and the team, right, they kind of had some meetings. Said, hey, you can't act this way. He apologized to the team. We thought it was done and dusted. And then Berhalter at a leadership conference, Austin, after the World Cup.
Literally, a week? Maybe a few weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
barely any time.
Barely any time, which he thought, I guess, was kind of under the radar or private, right? And how can you expect that at any conference, especially with the news these days and the leaks? Getting out and essentially using Giovanni Reyna as an example of how he was able to, effectively, manage and kind of discipline a player and kind of come up with an effective strategy on how to move forward and get beyond that situation, right? Get past that situation. That story coming out, obviously Gio put something out on Instagram, right? And was surprised himself and his agent that story came out. Reyna's family as well, his parents were not very happy. And that's where things get really bad, really bad with Danielle Reyna, which we found out, kind of pressuring and talking to Ernie Stewart about a situation with Rosalind and Greg. Rosalind, Greg's now wife, back maybe 30 years ago, back in college, where Greg did kick Rosalind in a abuse there, which again, horrible from anyway, just abuse in general is terrible. But bringing the story up in this time frame to U.S. soccer, Berhalter came out with this crazy Twitter account, which we all thought was a bot, releasing this letter co-signed by his wife of what happened. He was young, dumb. Rosalind didn't want anything to do with him. They made up and apologized. Now 30-something years later, let's fast forward. They're married. They have kids, moved on a situation. And the Reynas, who, right, went to college with Rosalind and Greg, right, growing up very closely together through the college years and beyond, right, in their families, released the story. So there's been really just a crazy family dynamic between what we thought were two close families. And that's kind of the crazy timeline of everything from the World Cup to how we got here. Greg's out of contract. All this came up to fruition. Complete drama. Austin, what are your thoughts on everything here? How do we move forward? How do we analyze this whole situation here?
It's tough, right? Because I feel like there's mistakes on both sides, and it's pretty, it's I guess easy to see in hindsight and easy to see from our perspective, but the mistakes made are just, I feel like no one in this situation has really made the right decision, whether it was, Berhalter kind of having that discussion with Gio going into the camp, which again, if you know your players and know how Gio responds, you probably would, refrain from that type of conversation with him, or at least, that's putting him in that type of mindset. Right. And obviously he's wrong for responding the way he did. Obviously Berhalter is wrong for bringing that up at that off the record convention. The Reyna family's wrong for bringing up what happened in the past. Berhalter's wrong for doing what he did in the past. So like the whole situation is just really, I don't know. There's just, it's really unfortunate. I guess that's the biggest thing. Cause I feel like it's really taken away from, the storyline we were hoping to have coming out of this World Cup, where we finally got some momentum going again. Right. And the team, again, didn't perform maybe as well as, us diehard fans wanted, right? I feel like we all kind of wanted, a little bit more in that Netherlands game, whether it was a result or just, maybe some more fight throughout the game. But, when you look at where we were 4 years ago, I really think we're in a lot better situation, and, the players are a lot better, right? And we're, their club careers are going a lot better than we've had ever in the entire history of the USMNT. So I feel like that really should have been the narrative coming out of this World Cup, right? And that was for a short period of time, but now all of this drama has really just clouded that, and it's really unfortunate, Pat. I really don't have any other words. It's just really bad. I don't know. I've never seen a situation get this toxic this quickly.
Neither have I. Do you think Ernie Stewart's like sitting between these two families, like?
I don't know, man. I think the biggest thing I've taken away from this is just like the leadership and, at the USF, they're doing their due diligence, I guess, checking into the whole situation. But I feel like, again, just the closeness of them with these two, families, I think is maybe a bit of a problem when you think of, again, asserting like strong leadership. I think that might be a big factor in how this situation played out. And also just, again, the leadership from Greg Berhalter. I think, again, if you have someone in that position who understands his players maybe a little bit better and understands how to lead some of these players that are playing at the highest level, have, some of the biggest egos, right? I hate to say that about our players, and I don't necessarily mean that badly. I just think it's part of success, right? Is you start to have an ego and think better of yourself in certain situations, and that drives some of, these players' decisions.
Right? These are world-class athletes who want to win.
Yeah.
Very, very competitive, like you said, Austin. And that's the biggest shame. And what I thought Berhalter did really well initially was, okay, maybe he wasn't the most tactically astute there, but his recruitment with Musa and others, and just garnering kind of this young movement, especially after the Saracen and all that disastrous, right? I felt a little better, right? We were heading in the right direction. Maybe Berhalter's not going to be the guy to lead us in 2026, right? But just for this Qatar experience, it seemed like it was going in the right direction, generally, in terms of the players getting closer together, building that inclusive environment from the outside, right? A lot of the players bonding there, bringing a mix of veterans, some of the experienced players.
Excuse me.
But yeah, this so many wrong moves, and I think I want to get your take on it, Austin. But with our coaching situation, with what I thought was one of Berhalter's strengths, clearly isn't.
Yeah.
What do you think? Is he coming back? Is he done? Is he toast? Is he going to come back and get fired a year later? What are your thoughts on the direction there?
I struggle to say, because you see on Twitter and you see everyone's trying to figure out what that situation is, right? And how this is all going to play out. And everyone seems to think that he's not coming back. But I think when you take a look at, again, the people in position of power, right? When you talk about Ernie Stewart, Brian McBride, I mean, they haven't voiced any, dissension or negative opinions about Greg Berhalter. They've all stayed pretty on the fence. Yeah, they've stayed pretty quiet. That's the other thing about him. And obviously with this investigation that's come out, they've said a little bit, but if I had to bet, I would bet that Berhalter is going to be back. Like, he's made every indication that he wants to be back. It seems like, again, this was an instance with Gio Reyna. You haven't heard any of the other players come out about, taking his side or the other side, which again, I think doesn't, I think it shows where the players are at, right? They're not willing to die on Berhalter's hill, but they're also not willing to die on the Reyna's hill. So I just think in this situation, I think, again, with the weak power or the weak leaders in power right now, I think they're going to kind of fall back to Berhalter and say, well, he hasn't done anything egregious after we've, searched this out and made sure that things have, were resolved from the past. Right. And I think it's, when you look at that, though, it's not going to help Gio Reyna's situation at all. Like, how do you bring him back into this mess?
And even market value, or for club teams? Obviously, Dortmund has him now, but that hurts him, selling him as an asset potentially in the future. Sure. Do you want mommy and daddy to follow you around? I know he's young still, but that is just, I can't even.
And also, even his attitude, it's not even mommy and daddy. I mean, he was clearly in the wrong in the way he reacted at the World Cup. I mean, that's really childish in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree. And we've been harping a lot of Berhalter. That's a perfect transition because, and being a new father myself, right? I feel it now that every action I do or behavior, my child is going to see, and that Claudio and Danielle and just the way they handled the situation, and with the playing time too, releasing that's pretty sinister in my opinion. And again, I'm not, what Berhalter did horrible, right? But that is something that is 30 something years in the past, fully resolved between them. They're married, kids, completely in the past, right? And just to open up that wound on apparently what was a very close friendship, and then thinking about kids from both sides, right? Gio, right? That to end up in this, right? Being the son in this situation to Berhalter's kids. That's, in my opinion, pretty sinister, and the actions can trickle down, right? And your kids, right? Gio seeing his parents act this way could be some of the reason why we saw the reactions we have on the field, or not celebrating with the team, in the Iran celebration. So again, I'm not trying to pin it, 100% Gio and even Greg, right? And parents, right? There's a lot of parties at fault here, but it's just time to move on, focus on soccer. And it's just unfortunate, like you said, that we've been clouded by all this drama back and forth.
Yeah. Well, what do you think's going to happen with Greg? Who do you think's going to, well, maybe not who, but how do you think the coaching situation for the USMNT is going to play out? Because I think we both are in the opinion that we don't want Anthony Hudson remaining in power.
It's horrible. It just reminds me, obviously, of a different time because we were in a World Cup, but it reminds me of like that Saracen horrible pause area. which we don't want to have a transition like that.
I mean, that was a whole year.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, and unless someone comes out of the woodwork, the availability of people have mentioned these crazy out of reach club managers, and even international managers, right? It's just, you heard the rumors of Zidane, and at least, again, if that's true, I respect the reaching out of that to inquire. But
yeah,
I mean, realistic, no. I just
don't think he's the right guy for our team either.
It's either goes back with what we know in Berhalter, which he technically hit, like, okay, get out of the group, qualify, won some tournaments, not defending him at all, right? We were more on the side of Berhalter out, but then who's available? Who are you going to bring in?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whoever it is, it needs to be like top hire is what I think all of us are expecting, and I just don't realistically think we're going to get that.
Yeah, I struggle to.
Might be back, and if not, maybe it's like I think tactical managers throwing out Jim Curtin. I think Caleb Porter's been a name here or there. Marsh isn't leading Leeds, which Marsh maybe in the future, but I just don't see him leading Leeds unless something disastrous happens here for the back half of the season. I just don't know who else is really out there that would take the job to be like a top 5 caliber manager. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I struggle to think about who really fits this team, because I think what you see right now is you need someone who can come in and kind of command the locker room, right? You need someone who has a repertoire or an established resume that people respect, right? Because I feel like that's the thing that's really lacking with Greg Berhalter right now. And I hate to say that because it's maybe a little unfair to him, but I feel like he doesn't get the respect from the players. I mean, we've seen it from multiple players, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had John Brooks, complaining in the huddle, which looked really embarrassing. We had Matt Miazga, who says he's got, stories about how he doesn't, necessarily respect Berhalter. Gio Reyna thing. You had Christian Pulisic at one point in time when he got subbed off, completely, dismissed Greg. So I think that's the common theme with Greg right now is that, as much as he's built this group, right, and there's some players who've really bought in and things like that, I really think you need someone who is more commanding than him and can kind of, has that resume again, like underneath them. And I like Jim Curtin. I think Jim Curtin's honestly a decent candidate when you think of American candidates, right? And I think again, you got to think of 2026 too. In my opinion, I don't think it should be someone who's completely random, right? Like I feel like Zidane is a great manager from what we've seen, but he doesn't fit this culture.
Does he have any international exposure at all?
Yeah, and like I just don't think he's gonna feel the effect. Or I really think for 2026, if we need to find someone who really fits the mold of this team and really understands how big of an opportunity to capitalize on 2026 can be, if ideal, if
I'm not saying the specific coach, right? But like a commanding presence, like again, doesn't maybe have to be as aggressive, right, as a Mourinho character, or even like a Klopp in some sense, but like a personality like that has the reputation of coaching and maybe a top 5 or 6 league consistent success, or some international, right? Some international exposure or success with certain teams. I think Roberto Martinez is another name that's thrown out, but somebody like you said that has a little bit more of that backbone, commanding presence, and then to say, hey, like, sure, maybe things aren't working out or things are going well. Respect me because of what I've done as a manager. Like, clearly, you see this. Let's just say you have a Klopp, right? Behind him, you have all these trophies. You have Champions League, this, that, or behind another manager, you have this and that, right? Behind Berhalter, right? He was just fired from that Swedish team, and to your point there,
pretty much.
I think people need to see somebody that has that managerial pedigree. It doesn't have to be to that caliber, but some success, right? In a fairly respectable international team, with an international team, or in a big, league for club managers. I think just seeing those really shows you, hey, this guy's been there, done that. I can follow him and trust him, even when things are going wrong. Yeah.
And again, someone that commands respect, I think is, that's a big part of that. And again, I don't think Greg Berhalter's done a great job of that personally. And that's from my outside that viewpoint. But I think, if there's someone out there, I'm a big, I can get on my soapbox again here, but I'm a big Jesse Marsh believer. I know things maybe didn't go well at Leipzig, right? That's one criticism, and he's not doing so great at Leeds right now. I mean, they're in 15th place, so
yeah, they're doing okay.
They're doing okay. He's won a few trophies in Austria, which again doesn't necessarily back that resume that we were just talking about. Right. But when you talk about someone who understands the culture of America, understands the culture of a locker room, I think you've shown that at Leeds and even at some of his other stops that he's gotten teams to buy into the system, which again, Greg Berhalter has been criticized for people not buying into the system. I just think he's someone that, again, if available, I think he makes a lot of sense. And I know there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't know. That's kind of my viewpoint, Pat. Do you have anyone in your mind who you think could, be a good solution? I know we talked about a few here, but
yeah. Honestly, I don't have like a clear front runner. I think some of the names that folks have circulated on social media here, as well as, coaches you mentioned, obviously you have your pipe dreams, but yeah, I just don't have anyone honestly too specific. And what's more concerning is from that American perspective, right? For if you want somebody, right, maybe you're looking at MLS or a coach that has some U.S. history, right, or has been involved with the program in some capacity. There's not much there. So it's really the only concerning thing. So time will tell.
Martino. No.
Yeah, yikes. Time will tell, Austin. But yeah.
What about with Gio too? Is there someone that maybe makes it easier for Gio to come back in?
I think you need a presence like a Marsh or a mentor like that I think in terms of his personality, or even honestly, even what I've seen from like a Mourinho-esque level, even what he's done at Roma and how they're kind of brutally honest, right? But give the respect to players, but also put them in their places sometimes and say, hey, like, look at that Dele Alli situation. What happened? I mean, Mourinho gave him all the chances, gave him really good encouragement. You had that clip that's gone viral, and look where he's at. So in Marsh's case too, with certain players, and how he's really kind of roped in Adams, right, and held him right to a higher standard at Leeds, even with his troubling times for both of them over in Germany. So I think those coaches, that personality, maybe I can't think of any of their names right now, but like that type of, like you said, had the respect, that personality to be able to kind of wrangle in Gio and some of the other stars that come about here for the program.
So my final question, real quick, I know we want to get to some more points today, but when you think about someone who's American versus international, do you think that plays a role in integrating Gio back in? Like, do you think if we have another American manager who's maybe more sensitive to everything that's going on, will that make it more difficult to kind of bring Gio back? Or if there's someone who maybe is a little bit further removed from this whole situation, kind of can reset the landscape almost in the pool?
Yeah, I almost think of it more outside of the American buddy USSF family. I think there can be other Americans maybe that aren't as close to Ernie and Claudia and all those people, right? International, you could make the case, right, completely far removed. Although apparently the story's been on BBC and other networks.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild. That's gotten the international attention. Oof. But yeah, I think it's more maybe not American versus international, in my perspective or my opinion, but more like the American USSF hub versus American or international, if that makes sense. I think you just got to get out of that. Ugh,
so you're saying don't hire Steve Cherundolo.
Pretty much.
Oh man!
Don't bring Bob Bradley back, please.
Yeah, Bruce Arena for his farewell.
I think Bob Bradley would send Gio to Antarctica.
Oh man, he'd bring Michael back. That's where we'd go. Oh man. So yeah, unfortunate situation, but hopefully we made some sense of it for you guys. And there's so much to talk about, so it's good to kind of piece through it.
Let us know in the comments below, right, Austin? Let us know what your thoughts are. Any coach recommendations? Should Berhalter stay? Probably not. Or should he go?
Yeah, definitely leave them in the comments, and we'd love to interact with you guys and hear what you guys think. So to move on to maybe a little bit I guess a little bit more enlightening news, or
We're getting up there. More positive.
Positive news. Yeah, Weston McKennie's been back in action for Juve since coming back from the World Cup. And just want to talk through real quick his game this weekend. And Juve were actually able to get a huge 1-0 win over Udinese in Serie A, and yeah, they're in second place now. That was a really good team that they beat this year. That's playing surprisingly well. So good all around. The one thing that we wanted to bring up is, Weston McKennie was really, kind of back in that Swiss Army knife role, like we saw for Schalke for a period of time here, and actually played primarily on the right side. Actually kind of, fluctuated from right mid, right wing back at times to right winger even, getting up the field. So definitely something to watch. And I know this kind of circulated around Twitter with a lot of people having a lot of concern for his position at Juve right now and where he's being asked to play. But I think it's important, Pat, to take a look for a second. So right now the team has really been hit by injuries. And obviously coming away from the World Cup, there are some people or some players who were kind of getting work back in as well, right? Angel Di Maria was out for a little bit, coming back from his, World Cup win. But they're without Dusan Vlahovic right now. Paul Pogba is still out. Bonucci's still out. Bremer, their center back they just signed from Torino this past offseason, is out. So they have a lot of injuries, right? And it's really kind of forced Allegri to, play some of these players out of position. You saw Alexandro and Danilo play as center backs this weekend. That's not their primary positions, right? They're able to play those positions, but that's not where they're most comfortable. And I feel like this is, really taking a toll on Weston's role within the team as well, right? He's not being asked to play through the middle much anymore. Again, he's playing in a lot of different positions, right? He was all over that right side this weekend. So I think once some of these players start to come back, later in January, Pat, I think we're going to see Weston kind of back in that central role. With Allegri earlier this year and even some, at some points last year, he's kind of playing more advanced in midfield, which we've come to see from him a lot, over his club career, because he's able to, combine well going into the final third. He's great in the air, right? Can finish some chances in and around the box. So, I guess I'm just saying, Pat, that I think we should have a little bit of patience here with, what his position is right now at Juve and kind of his situation is. I think it's, going to work itself out.
I think so too. I think the important thing is they're winning and he's starting still. Obviously there's been an influx of injuries. A lot of the youth players in McKennie carrying the team right to second place. And Locatelli has been playing much better, Rabiot, the World Cup form. McKennie also playing more, like you said, in this right wing back position in right mid, but also arriving late to the box where he's been making some incredible runs and some crosses down the flanks. So we saw really good sequences in the World Cup where he ended up in that situation kind of in the corner, the right flank with Tim or Christian some moments opposite side of the flanks and then making, fantastic crosses arriving late into the box. So he really is a Swiss Army knife, and I think that's why Allegri loves him so much, and honestly raves about him. And in terms of again filling in when needed, also at full strength, putting him in his best position, he is probably one of their most mobile, utility players there, and that's very valuable in terms of what Allegri demands for and asks from his players, right? Especially McKennie to cover all of that ground. So as Pogba comes back, yes, I think got some minutes there, made a huge impact right in that game. And once they get to full strength, Di Maria, now fully fit or for the most part, really pushing Napoli there for the Scudetto and then still Coppa Italia, Europa League. They're still in, even though they dropped from champions. There's a lot to play for. McKennie's been a huge part of it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the one thing maybe we should monitor too, which is why I feel like we've kind of started to think that maybe Weston's not in the right situation that's best for him, is a lot of the fans have kind of turned a little sour on him too. And I think you make a good point, Pat, right? He's been starting pretty regularly for Juve. Allegri seems to trust him, but it seems like fans have just not necessarily taken to him as much this year. So that's definitely something to watch. And again, I think you got to be careful with social media, right? There's so many people out there, so many different takes. You know, when you watch players play, you know, you can see how well they play, right? So I think that's one thing to kind of keep an eye on with Weston, is maybe take some of those opinions with a grain of salt and do some of that watching and research for yourself. But
Austin, important point, and sorry to interrupt you there, but the bad, right? He was involved with the bad, that when Allegri was getting called to be sacked. And he's also been involved with the good. So it's not like he's been taken out of the lineup and they're playing well. He's been on both sides and a part of this rise. Yeah,
no, it's very true. And he hasn't been flawless, right? Let's be honest. Like McKennie's had some bad moments with Juve, especially this year. I don't think he's played to necessarily the level he played at last year, or even, you know, earlier.
Right.
I think the season before, when he was really killing it in Champions League and scoring goals against Barca and things. But
he had some rough injuries, right? He had some pretty bad injuries.
It's true. Yeah, he did have some injuries. So so I guess that's one thing I wanted to say on Weston. The other thing is transfer rumors, right? So with all that, you know, positivity we have going into you know, this portion on Weston, there is some rumors that you know, a lot of teams from the Premier League are interested, mainly Aston Villa, Bournemouth, and Tottenham, but also Borussia Dortmund's supposedly interested in Weston as well. And yeah, I was gonna say, you know, former Schalke player, not so sure that, you know, he'd be up for that switch, but we'll kind of see where his loyalty lies maybe in the next few weeks. But Aston Villa and Bournemouth are supposedly the only teams that have really inquired about him, and actually, I guess, put in soft bids of 12 million euros or so for him. It sounds like Juve is interested more around that like 18 to 20 million euro price tag, or at least that's like the lowest they'll even consider. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I really don't think, you know, any of these teams really make a lot of sense. Aston Villa is one that could make sense, but again, you always see them hot and cold, right, Pat? Like, I feel like they're never a team that's super consistent. Bournemouth's not doing so hot. And Tottenham
League to relegation. That's the
it's tough, right? And it kind of hurts a player's brand too if they go to one of these teams and, you know, that team doesn't end up doing so hot. So I don't know. I think with where he's at right now with Juve again is second in Serie A, right? It's crazy to say. It feels like they've been, you know, lacking for so long, and they've been hard to watch at times this year. But Serie A has been, you know, quite the interesting league to follow this year. There's a lot of parity, and you know, Juve have kind of taken advantage of that. Again, they're getting so many of their main players back, and I would love to see Pogba and Weston in the same midfield. I really hope he stays, just so we can see, you know, some minutes of them together. I really think their energy that they bring to the field, and again, some of their play styles could really, you know, kind of what's the right word I'm looking for? Gel with each other, and you know, I think they could kind of play well off of each other. So I really think, you know, with all those transfer rumors, I think he should stay, Pat. I don't think he should move.
Full agreement with you. There have been some interesting rumors. Conte, Tottenham, but who knows how long Conte's going to last. Dortmund, but the rival Schalke, like you said. But Juventus is a very strange club. They don't play in this beautiful way. They were almost to the point of in that 6th or 7th spot, but the title race has gotten really close. They've turned it around. They've ridden the ship so far. Still a long way to go. And then they still have to play for it. Like I said, they have 2 other tournaments there at the league. It's also an interesting situation in terms of their financial problems and the rumors going on. Do they make a profit from McKennie or some others? I don't know what's going to happen, but at least for the time being, would love to see him lift that Serie A trophy, Austin, or or make a run the Europa League. Continue to get minutes for, again, what's historically been a really top Italian, you know, giant.
Yeah, I fully agree too. So, here's to hoping, you know, Weston stays in Italy, and you know, we see some positive play, strong performances from him in the future here.
All right, I guess we should pivot right to back to the EPL. So I guess we're going kind of down a bit. Some unfortunate news, Austin, with Christian Pulisic, Captain America, over at Chelsea. Some unfortunate news now that we have to pivot to. suffered a knee injury, right? In last Thursday's 1-0 loss to Man City. So they have played Man City back-to-back, right? They just had the FA Cup loss 4-0. Tough games against Pep Guardiola. But unfortunately, Pulisic has looked fairly bright getting the form. And then this game had some good moments. But John Stones, unfortunate tackle there, just hit Pulisic's knee there, sliding in and just grimacing. You knew something was off from that moment. And I think not even a minute later, he went down and off the pitch. So it looks like Graham Potter has said they're still doing some tests, analyzing things. Doesn't look very good at the knee. They're going to a few more weeks. They're expecting him to return, but no concrete details have been released to the public. So we don't really know what's going on. Maybe best case might be 2 to 3 weeks, but we'll certainly keep you posted, Austin. But it's just unfortunate to see after the World Cup grind. You thought he would pick up some momentum. The January transfer window, maybe getting out of Chelsea, or the summer especially. And now, after starting some games, getting the trust back, gets hit with another injury. It just seems like he keeps climbing. What's that old Greek mythology story? Climbing that hill, right?
Yeah.
Rolling the ball up the hill and then just going right back down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really sad. You hate to see, him get injured, and especially, another leg injury with his knee.
I know.
It's disappointing. And there's not much you can do about it, right? It's hard to, protect players in that situation. Again, it wasn't the best tackle from John Stones, but he's an attacker. He's going to get in situations where defenders put a leg in, and
it happens in football. Yeah. It's not malicious, like you said, or anything. And he really is, unfortunately, turning in. I tweeted this out. He's kind of our Marco Reus, or even the Ox over with Arsenal and Liverpool now. It's just concerning, right? As we project down the line. I think you said something interesting to me, is he's taken a lot of wear and tear. Obviously he's still very young, but how many more knee injuries, is it 5-10 years down the line? Can he go through, or hamstrings or groins or what have you? It's a lot of wear and tear. He's a player, right, that relies on that quick change of pace, those sprints, right? Getting past those players on the wing. So only time will tell the severity of it, but I think his time for Chelsea is coming to an end this summer.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is there, you even talked about it before we started filming. Is there a better league for him maybe than the Premier League? Is it maybe too physical? He had injury concerns and problems in Germany as well, so maybe that's not it. But is it worth for him maybe exploring, a different league to maybe lengthen his career out, different, playing style or I guess, team playing style. I don't know. Yeah. Is that worth considering from his point of view, or do you think it's, he's so on board with the style that's played in England and just the life of the Premier League? Is it worth?
That's my only concern, Austin, because he seems to really love London and obviously playing the EPL, but we've seen a lot of success, right? Some guys go from EPL other leagues over to Serie A in a case. There's some potential interest there. I know you mentioned maybe even back to Germany. I don't know if he wants to join Royce on the sidelines. It's a horrible joke.
Whenever players go back to Dortmund, they never do as well as they did the first time.
I just don't know where he goes from here. I'm not a huge fan of that Newcastle move, or even Man U. I really don't know, but whether he turns into a player that is kind of what Tim Weah has become in a way for Lille, obviously for a higher, club there for Christian. But right now, until he can get really healthy, he can't really get more than 3 or 4 games starting without getting injured. So it's just, it's happened again and again and again, right? So it's not just now 1, 2, or 3 times. It's been more than that. So that's the only concern, to preserve his career for the long run, Austin. And what are your thoughts? Do you think a change of league, or maybe even at a level like Chelsea, but maybe it's like 40% starts, 60%, like 30, 40 minutes. I don't want to put him in that bucket, but he's getting injured so much.
Yeah, I think it's worth exploring. And I really do think if he's trying to lengthen his career and think about his health that way, I think there is some merit to maybe, going to one of those leagues where maybe it's a little less physical and more skillful. I don't know. Again, I think he has a lot of the qualities that lead him to succeed in the Premier League as well, right? The quickness and the quick, change of pace and able to get out and on the break and in transition, things like that. But I don't know, those qualities can also help him in other leagues as well. So I don't know. I think I'm in agreement with you though. I think his time at Chelsea might be coming to an end, and he's really got to take some time, this spring and figure out what his career goals are and what he wants from his career, how he wants to be remembered.
Right.
So,
quickly to add to Austin, Chelsea is just in a horrid situation. So healthy or not, get out of there. It's going to be a clean house. They
don't seem to be.
I don't even know what position they're in right now, but it's definitely not looking good for any Europa or Champions League action for them.
Yeah, and their spending habits are crazy. I mean, they're talking about. Oh man, I can't even think of his name now. The player from Argentina. Oh man, and Enzo Fernandez. Why can't I think of his name? Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And they're talking about them spending 130 mil on him. Like what? Like where is that coming from? First off, and why? Like I don't know. I think
Holland was like what 60-70 million less.
Yeah. Well, Man City made out well because I think Dortmund had Holland had a buyout clause, which really paid off for them.
Different situation, but.
Yeah, I think that team, Todd Bowley might be the one to blame for where they're at right now, and time will tell of whether or not he's going to be a good owner or not. But I just think there's a lot of uncertainty with Chelsea. There's a lot better opportunities out there as well. So why not try and find one of them? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
he's had some good memories.
Yeah, exactly. We'll stay positive for Pulisic. Keep you all posted. Hopefully, he recovers sooner than later and can have a strong finish to the season and audition really for his next place.
Yeah, we still have Nations League coming up this year too. So
yeah.
Players never get a break anymore. So keep it coming.
Probably one of the main problems, Austin. That's probably
it's very true. It's very true. But. So let's finish our episode today, or this part of our episode, on a high note, Pat, and let's talk about CCV real quick. So Cameron Carter-Vickers came back from the World Cup, has really been killing it for Celtic. Honestly, he's been killing it for them all season. You can even say ever since he stepped onto the pitch there, right? But he's really done a great job. Again, after this World Cup here, put together a good run of form. He's really been consistently Celtic's highest rated defender for the past 3 or 4 games. And again, they've gotten some good results. Obviously, they only got a draw versus Rangers, I believe in the Old Firm Derby?
Yeah, 2-2 draw, but they pummeled them pretty early on the first time they played.
Yeah, so, that was something to see, but, CCV was rated pretty highly, by some of the different rating services.
Nice stop on Tillman, too, that sliding challenge.
Yeah, did you see that? That was a pretty nice recovery. So just wanted to give him a quick shout out. Obviously, we've tried to watch a little bit of him, but it's been hard, right? We've seen mostly highlights, and it looks like he's progressing, right? Whether it's in ball possession, again, being smarter in certain situations on when to commit going forward and when to get back and kind of what path to take. I really feel like you've started to see these past few years him grow in those different aspects of his game. And I think it's really important to mention as well, he just turned 25 on New Year's Eve, so he's still pretty young for a center back, right?
So long.
I know. We can remember him back in 2015 playing for the U20 team as like a 17, 18-year-old. So he's been around a while, but he's still young, in our eyes as a center back. So just want to throw that out there. And then the final point, which again, Pat, I don't know if you saw this or not, but USMNT only posted it. And I thought it was really cool to see, a fan's take, right? So we got to take it a little bit with a grain of salt, but One fan said that, you know, CCV is the best in Scotland since Van Dijk, and no one else is even close.
Yeah.
So whether that's, you know, I guess over exaggeration or whether it's accurate, I think it's really cool though to see fans kind of rally around him. And again, it just kind of shows, right, his progression there in Scotland. He's gotten better. And again, I think fans are recognizing it. You know, us USMNT supporters who've kind of followed him over the past few years has seen it. And, you know, confidence is a big part of it, Pat. If it seems like he's in a good situation, feels comfortable. And that's probably the biggest thing that's helped him so far.
Couldn't agree more. And that's a fantastic point you brought up too, and off camera. I mean, Van Dijk hasn't really peaked until later on, right? And CCV, like you said, is at a really good age. He's been in a great run of form after bouncing around so much since we've covered him over since we started the channel. He's been on how many different teams, Austin? Too many.
I think we counted eight or nine now.
Unbelievable where he's ended up. And again, got a taste of Champions League, which was rough on Celtic, but still a taste. You know, had the Europa League. They're top of the league, dominating, running away with it. And he's amassed over, 60, 70 caps at this point, getting close to that number. And it's getting to a point where, hey, he's really conquered all he can in Scotland, and I think he's ready for that next jump, you know, into a big 4 or 5 league, or maybe it is a lower mid-table EPL team and go back to England. So a lot on the table. His market value is increasing significantly, and he is just, again, like Robinson, who also bounced around and had some deficiencies when he started the US. He has also really shot up in a trajectory and improved so much in terms of, you know, club form.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the thing. It's all part of this process that he's been on, this journey that he's been on. So yeah, I'm excited to continue to watch him. When you look at where, you know, center back position is right now, I think, I think again, he's someone that is going to play a role here in this next cycle. And super excited, Pat, to kind of see, you know, where his future lies. So that's all for this part of our episode. Now, Pat, let's head over to Quick Kicks.
All right, y'all fans, Austin, new year, 2023, new Quick Kicks. And let's start off with my first topic here to cover, and that's Haji Wright, who has 10 league goals, right, for Antalyaspor. This past weekend, 0-0 draw. He started, but previous game, got on the score sheet, and I think he's the second leading goal scorer, behind the Ecuadorian legend Valencia. Really killing it, right? And he's shown his worth, and now is getting potential looks from other clubs across the world. Crystal Palace has been floated there. He could potentially join Chris Richards. That would be interesting to see. 6 to 8 million pounds rumored. So just be on the lookout for that. Because again, he had that freak, incredible goal against the Netherlands and had some minutes in the World Cup. We're surprised to see him, but he put on the show and he's killing it in Turkey. And I think he might be ready for, the next jump in his career. So second topic, Austin, and that's Leeds America and Brendan Aaronson. So Leeds as a whole, right? Had the 2-2 draw in the FA Cup. They also drew West Ham 2-2. But a lot of come from behind draws, and they're out of relegation zone, but also have not been performing very well. A few points off. It's a very tight race, and it's closer than you can imagine. If they get a few losses there, they don't pick up wins, they're going to fall right back into that zone. And unfortunately, Brendan Aaronson's form has kind of reflected Leeds as well. He's getting pushed off the ball more. He's not finding the right spaces there. The touches have been off. I think even Jesse Marsh, right, has said some comments there to maybe instill some motivation in Aaronson, but hasn't looked kind of up to form, right, since, and I think you mentioned it, maybe even that World Cup time frame. So only time will tell. There's plenty of more games to play for. He has the right mentality to pick things up, but just a little blip in form right now and some concerns. So we'll see if he continues to start or comes off the bench. But time will tell.
Yeah, which has been a little surprising, to be honest, because he's played with such confidence, to start the season. And I feel like you saw that confidence dip a little bit at the World Cup. It just
Right.
kind of seemed he seemed a little unsure of himself on that stage, which I thought was odd personally. But
Yeah.
let's hope it's just just a little blip and something that he rebounds from pretty quickly. I had two quick kicks as well. So the first one, player I'm super excited about, and related to the player we just talked about,
Yeah.
Paxten Aaronson. It was announced, I believe, during the World Cup, I want to say, or at least at the end of 2022 there, that he made the transfer to Frankfurt for a little over $4 million, which was a great move for him. I thought it was a pretty good move for the Union as well. He's a player who wasn't really getting much playing time last year, just based on how good of players they have on their team right now.
Team. It's hard to break in anyone.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to be really interesting to see. So going to Frankfurt, they're obviously a pretty decent team as well, right? Playing in the Europa League last year, they won the Europa League, right?
They did.
If I'm not mistaken,
They
right?
They beat Rangers.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I mean, this is going to be a good team he walks into. So I think it's going to be really important to see if he can get minutes this spring, right? He's one of the younger players on this team. They're a pretty veteran heavy team. So again, I think he's really going to have to prove himself in training, win the support of, Glasner, the manager there, and kind of show him that he's someone to be trusted. So I think if you see him play this spring, even if it's, in some substitute appearances, I think that's really good for, his progress there at the club. And it really shows, again, how they rate him. But if you don't see him play, then I think, a little bit of concern. Obviously, he's still got some time to figure things out. U20 World Cup, again, this U20 cycle, it seems like he's going to be one of the main leaders for this team. So that's another stage for him to showcase his talents. But I'm excited. I really enjoyed what I saw from him in those, short glimpses last year. Again, watching him against LAFC in the MLS Cup final, I thought he came on and looked very good, and he looked very comfortable in a final game against a really good team. So I'm excited to kind of see this move play out. And then the final quick kick I had is just Richie Ledesma's injury. I don't know if all you guys saw it, but Richie came off injured again this weekend in Young PSV's game. I believe it was a knee injury. If not, it was a leg injury of some sort. And I haven't heard too much more about how long he's going to be out, but just this man can't catch a break. And it's really disappointing to see. He's someone that, kind of came up as we were, starting to first cover, American soccer here on YA, and one of those OGs from that U20 World Cup cycle where we beat France. So really just disappointing. Obviously had such high hopes from him at one point in his career, but I'm not sure exactly where his career is going to go, if he's going to be able to kind of reach those highs that we were hoping for. But at the end of the day, he's a person first, right? So just want to send our sympathy out to him and let him know that we're supporting him, and we're still here going to be covering him. Well, guys, it was great being back filming with you all today. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
Don't forget Twitter. We're fighting those USMNT Pro Greg bots there. Instagram putting out great content for you all, especially again as we head into the new cycle, new year. Plenty to talk about. Hopefully we're beyond the drama and now back to our players here on a weekly basis.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. There's so much to talk about now. It seems like every day, right? There's a new story or scandal that comes out. So gotta stay updated on all that. And this episode's also available in podcast form. So check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify.
And Austin, I think just with the new year, right? We're going to have to do more live streams with you all. Some drop again in the comments any video ideas or concepts you might all have. We're going to be a little bit creative as well, especially with all these other tournaments coming up, right? Some of the youth tournaments, our senior team. There's a lot to look forward to, right? And just onward to and better and hoping for a really successful 2026 World Cup and some other trophies along the way. And keeping Mexico off the trophy stage there,
That's right. And everything that's happened recently, right, is all part of that story, right? This isn't the end, right? It's just part of the journey. Right
We'll
now
look
we're in
back
kind of
and
one of
laugh
those.
about this drama after we win the World Cup, right?
Exactly, right? That'll be water under the bridge. Maybe one day the Reynas and the Berhalters will be able to sit down and smoke a cigar together or something. You'll see.
Wouldn't that be something? I'd love
Yeah.
to be a fly on the wall there.
Right? So all this is leading to one day the USMNT winning that World Cup.